If America had no kings, the South made its own. Theirs was a nobility without crowns, but with all the trappings of feudal power, vast lands, inherited names, and an army of enslaved labourers to bend the fields to their will. Let's call them the Houses of Cotton. Virginia crowned the Southern nobility. Its dynasties were the Lees, heirs to George Washington's legacy, the Randolphs, whose lineage stretched to the colonial gentry, and the Byrds and Carters, families whose plantations were miniature kingdoms. If Virginia was the South's pride, South Carolina was its fury. Here thundered the Calhouns and the Hampton family, lords of vast estates and thousands of enslaved people, and the Retts, who fanned secession's flame. South Carolina styled itself as the cradle of Southern honor, the first to secede and the loudest to demand disunion. In Mississippi, power lay in sprawling cotton empires. The Davises, with Jefferson Davis himself ascending to Confederate president, embodied the Delta aristocracy. These lords ruled rich bottomlands where cotton was king, their fortunes built on the backs of enslaved thousands. They carried themselves as barons of a feudal frontier. Further west, families like the Butlers of Louisiana mixed politics and plantation wealth. Along the Mississippi River, aristocrats lived in colonnaded mansions, their fortunes feeding both New Orleans markets and Europe's looms. They were the frontier wing of House Cotton, less refined than Virginia's Cavaliers, but just as fierce in defending slavery. They all spoke the language of honor and duty, as if the chivalry of medieval knights had simply crossed the Atlantic and taken root in the New World. But beneath their polished manners and grand parlors was brutality. Their mansions were castles built on bondage, their fields kept green by the crack of whips. Their duels, fought to defend honor, masked a deeper truth. Their power depended entirely on human suffering. By 1860, enslaved people in the South were worth more than all the railroads, banks, and factories of the North combined. To the lords of cotton, slavery was not just an economic system, it was their very identity. The planter class were not apologizing for slavery. They boasted of it as though it were civilization's crown jewel. Yet aristocracies are always paranoid. House Cotton watched the North grow in population, factories, and railroads, and felt the noose tighten. They feared the rise of the free soil movement, Northerners who demanded that new Western lands be closed to slavery. If slavery could not expand, the planter aristocracy would lose its grip on Congress, its dominance of the Union, and eventually its very survival. Thus they clung to the myth of King Cotton. Southern editors boasted, "No power on earth dares make war upon cotton. Cotton is king." They believed Britain and France, hungry for their white gold, would kneel to their will. With cotton as their scepter, the South thought itself untouchable. But kings who believe themselves untouchable are the quickest to fall. For all its grandeur, House Cotton was brittle. Its wealth sat on fragile foundations. Enslaved labor, monocrop agriculture, foreign markets, its culture of masculine pride, of duels and honor codes made compromise impossible. Every threat became an insult, and every insult a call to arms. House Cotton saw itself as the last true aristocracy of America. And when that identity was challenged, it was ready to drag the entire nation into war rather than yield its throne. Cotton is king, they said. But kings who gamble too much often lose their crowns. If cotton ruled the South, then iron ruled the North. Where Southern lords measured their power in acres of land and enslaved bodies, Northern barons counted theirs in factories, banks, and steel rails. Let's call them the Houses of Iron.